Good morning, students. I hope that all of you are doing good. Okay, students, today we are going to start a new chapter of history, Rural Life and Society, chapter 4 of your history. See, in class 8, we are doing modern history. We are studying history, modern history, that how British company, English East India Company came to India for trading purpose only, right? And how did they become a supreme political power in India? We have learnt about Battle of Palasi and Battle of Buxar also, and how English East India Company got right to collect taxes from different part of country from peasants. As you know that agriculture was the main activity at that time. So before the arrival of British, Mughal Empire was there. So taxes were collected from peasants and it was, deposited or given to the Mughal emperor by the headman of the village, or you can say that intermediaries, right? But after, British, they became supreme political power. They got the right to collect taxes from different parts of country. They introduced some of the new policies for revenue collection, right? So we are going to learn about those collection policies only, right? So what were the revenue collection policies introduced by British? How commercialization of agriculture, made Indian peasants poor, and how the peasants they revolted against English East India Company in different parts of India. So we are going to learn about all these in this country. As you know that the company became the chief financial administrator after Battle of Palasi and Buxar. Now their main motive was to earn more and more money because they wanted money, right? They wanted money to for the maintenance of their army. They wanted money for earn more and more profit also. So they adopted all means to enhance their income. So the main system was these revenue collection policies, right? These revenue, you can say that land revenue settlements. So we are going to learn about three major land revenue settlements introduced by British in this chapter, right? So let's start the reading first of all. So rural life before the coming of Europeans was simple. The Indian villages were more or less self sufficient. It means that they grow crops for their use also, and sometimes, barter system was also there. So peasant families cultivated the land, paid a part of produce to the rulers as revenue, as tax, you can say. The revenue was generally collected by village headmen or intermediaries, as I told you earlier. Once the English East India Company took over, it changed the way of revenue collection. Revenue was now collected as a fixed amount. Since the peasants had to pay the revenue in cash, they were forced to grow only those crops which could be sold into the market. It means that commercialization of agriculture was started. Now, new land revenue settlements. So, three major land revenue settlements were there: permanent settlement, Rayotwadi settlement, and Mahalwadi settlement. Now, new land revenue settlements. The primary motive of British, like any other imperial power, was to collect revenue from land, as I told you earlier also. However, that could not be achieved without a viable land revenue collection system changing. So the British introduced three different types of land revenue settlements in different part of country. First, zamindari system or permanent settlement in Bengal. Rayotwadi system in Madras and Bombay. Mehalwadi system in Punjab, northwest and central India. So let's talk about permanent settlement first. So permanent settlement, it was made by Lord Cornwallis, right, in 1793 in Bengal. And there were some main provisions of the settlement. So let's talk about this, then we will read also. So zamindar were given the main, you can say, role here, so that's why it's called zamindari system also. So zamindars were responsible for collecting revenue from peasants, farmers, and then give this revenue or deposit this revenue to British, right? So zamindars were given many powers. They were having right to evict the cultivators if they are not able to pay the taxes on time, right? The zamindars were required to pay a fixed amount because it's called permanent. So permanent means fixed. So zamindars were also required to pay a fixed amount of land revenue to the government every year, right? And if the zamindars failed to pay the fixed amount, they had to lose their zamindari rights. That's why zamindars, they did everything, or you can say they made every possible efforts to collect revenue from farmers, because if they will be collecting from farmers only, then they can deposit it to a government in time, right? So let's read about from your book now. So zamindars were made the owners of the land. So they were, made the owners of land. They worked as agents or intermediaries, you can say that. They worked as agents of government in collecting land revenue. It means they were collecting the land revenue, the taxes from farmers, and then they were depositing it to government. So they worked as an agent. The zamindar had to pay about, you can say, 89% of collected revenue to government, and 11% they can keep it with themselves. The zamindars were permitted to retain 11% of revenue collected. The land revenue was fixed for 10 years on a permanent basis, and the zamindars were given hereditary rights of a zamindar. It means zamindar son will be the next zamindar, right? So hereditary rights, I think everyone know what is that, right? So there were limitations of permanent settlement also. You see the zamindars, because the amount was fixed, so zamindar, they had to give a fixed amount to British, but for making their profit, they made some of the oppressive policies, or they used some oppressive methods to get taxes from farmers. Sometimes they used to collect more taxes to earn their profit, because they have to give the fixed amount to government. So they made some oppressive policies, they used some oppressive policies to collect more and more taxes from farmers. Now, there were some limitations also of permanent settlement. So, this system created a new class of landlords, zamindars, you can say, right, who became the political allies of British, or you can say supporter of British. They were very loyal to British. Many of wasteland forest were brought under cultivation. Permanent settlement was a heavy and oppressive assessment, oppressive policy. Taxes were often collected by oppressive methods, very cruel methods. The position of actual cultivators, or you can say farmers of the soil, it was very, very bad. It worsened, as they could be evicted by zamindar on non payment of dues. If they are not able to pay the dues, they could be evicted by the zamindars from their land. In the long run, this settlement benefited the landlords more than the government. How? Because the government had to pay the fixed amount only, right? But by increasing the area under cultivation, land revenue collected from peasants went up, while the amount that they had to pay to state, to the government, remained fixed. Moreover, the zamindar, they did not take any interest in improving the fertility of the land. Their main motive was only to collect taxes, right? So they wanted to earn more and more profit without any investment in land, right? So this was the main, you can say, limitations also. So farmers, they suffered the most under the system, right? Sometimes for paying the tax, they had to borrow money from money lenders at a very high rate of interest. So their conditions, it got worse. So farmers suffered a lot in this system, and this system created a big class of landlords who became the most loyal supporters of the British rule in India. So today we have learnt about permanent settlement only. The other two settlements, we will be learning in the next video, in the next lesson. Again, I'm telling you just for the recapitulation, permanent settlement, it was a land revenue system which was introduced by Lord Cornwallis in 1793 in Bengal, right? So this system was also called zamindari system because zamindars or landlords were they were given the main role here. They were working as agents who were collecting taxes from farmers and depositing to government. So they have to deposit the fixed amount to the government, right, for the 10 years, and it was revised. Taxes were revised after 10 years, right? So they were collecting taxes from peasants. They had to deposit 89% of taxes collected to the government, and 11% they can retain with themselves. And landlords, they wanted to make more and more profit, and they were using some oppressive methods to collect taxes from the peasants. So the condition of peasants, it was very very bad under the system. And the landlord zamindar, they were very loyal. They were very political supporters. They were political supporters of British, and they were very very loyal to British, right? So if you are having any kind of query or any kind of problem or anything which you do not understand, you are free to call me, you are free to message me. So have a nice day.